blow it in the playoffs.
They're not dead yet. The Maple Leafs with a tight 2-1 victory over the Florida Panthers in Game 4. And they staying alive. I'm Joe Choss with the boys, Coach Frank and Bobby Bottles of the Puck and Leafs podcast. Boys, I'm glad we got at least one more chance to do a winning podcast, an episode after a win in the playoffs. They've given it to us. I mean, let's break it down. I thought that was the Leafs' best defensive effort of the entire series. They did not give Florida much of anything. Florida had 24 shots, 19 were from the perimeter. We've been criticizing Sheldon Keefe a lot this series, and much of it was deserved, I think. But I think we were finally waiting for those adjustments, and it seemed like those adjustments had happened. The stretch passes weren't working as much, and they clogged up the middle of the ice a lot better today. And they did a heck of a job blocking shots. Let's give credit to the boys there. They put it all on the line. So, what are you thinking? What are we saying, boys?
Ooh,
Frank, are you someone who's very critical of Keefe? Are you ready to give him some credit for today?
Not really. I still didn't see a lot of Marner and Nylander and Matthews together again. You know, maybe the odd shift, but I would have liked to see that with that dynamic. Didn't matter really on the left side. Seemed like Yarncroc was pretty much the staple beside Matthews tonight. But listen, credit is one thing when he starts making more adjustments on zone entries and things of that nature. And, listen, at this point too, Joe, we as coaches, because I know we've all coached at certain levels, we're the heroes when we win and we're the lightning rod when we lose. At this point into the playoffs, it's not really the coaches anymore. It's the players. So, we can criticize how we want, yes and no, but what you wanted to see tonight was the core four. Two of them pretty much showed up. So you got to really look at the players. I only can look at Keefe and how they distributed ice time, and I think 3 of the 4 were over 20 minutes. I don't think Tavares hit the 20-minute mark, but usually you would see a little bit of that when they're 11-7. So, but until then, no, I'm gonna stay hypercritical until they put 4 on the board.
So let's talk about the big story points. Going into this game, it was all about the core 4 had not scored a goal in 3 games. They were heavily criticized, and some of the takes on Twitter and in Leafs Nation were just I had to stay off Twitter because it was not good for my mental health. Some of these takes were absolutely brutal, but they came through today, man. When that goal went in for Mitchie, I was so happy for him because there's nobody that needed that goal more than him. And it seemed like it had gone to his legs a bit afterwards. I thought he did very well defensively. He was on the ice for the last minute of the game, made some nice plays. Willie Nylander, once again, was their best forward. And when I see online these morons talk about how we got to trade Nylander, this is the one guy who consistently shows up in the playoffs for us, man. Okay, once in a while, he won't back check as hard, but he's the most noticeable guy out there. I've had it with the Nylander detractors. This is a guy we need to try to keep. And my sources tell me he loves being a Maple Leaf, and he might be the one guy that would take a discount, to be honest. So Matthews, I thought, had a good game too, man. He was physical. He blocked a ton of shots, defensive presence. And JT was better today. Not as good as he can be. I think the speed of this Panther team is really giving him some troubles.
You took the words out of my mouth. I think it's really showing how much he's struggling on not just on the forecheck, but on even his own zone when Florida's kind of moving that puck around when they have possession. He can't get to his spot in time, and I think it happened on the Montour one-timer in the first period. Even just getting to the net too on second chances, just kind of that half step late. It is what it is, right? Now that's where you're hoping guys like O'Reilly and he can step in, which I thought he was okay defensively tonight. Really didn't see him much offensively, but there's a guy I'm hoping that can bring some energy into Game 5 if Tavares is still kind of that one step behind. If we're going to talk about core four, you might want to add another guy in there, and I've been one of his biggest criticizers, but again, Morgan Riley, I thought he was fantastic tonight. And good for him, because listen, I'm not one of his biggest fans, but like he looked like he was on a mission tonight. He was active in the offensive zone. He was pinching down. Was pretty solid defensively. He made a great stretch pass to Tavares on the breakaway. I thought he was great, and I think he's a key to this defense that's been struggling a lot in this series. So credit to him.
Yeah, we were heavily critical of Riley during the regular season, but man, you know what? He brings it every playoff. And for $7.5 million, I'd gladly pay that for how he's playing. Bobby, what were your overall thoughts of tonight's game? What were your major takeaways?
So the D zone, they were fine there. I thought Florida still had some. They didn't have a lot of.
They're a good offensive team, man. They're going to get some chances. You're not going to totally shut them out.
So Luke Shen, what a play there at the end. That was a goal.
Saver.
That's a goal.
Yep.
They look chaotic at times though in zone. They're obviously not a team built to play in their own zone. They're not defensive minded. They look chaotic at times. They look like they give up a lot of seams. They just got to stay out of their own zone. Luckily, Florida hasn't had a lot of. They came out. They started I think the first period they had kind of like 2 or 3 sustained minutes, and then same thing in the third period. The Marner goal. I don't know if you guys noticed it, but the first period they were trying to attack that area a lot. The Leafs, they were going low to high, D to D, and then trying to hit that middle area with a forward. It wasn't working to start. I thought they should go back to playing down low because of how high Florida was playing. But that's a bit of a soft spot in a lot of defensive structures, and they finally got a clear shot. Florida did a good job of taking it away. They finally gave a little time and space, and then just throw it to the net, and you never know, right? Like just get some traffic in front. It was clearly an emphasis. They tried it 3 or 4 times in the first period, and then they finally got something off of it. So I don't know who you want to give credit to on that one, but it was clearly a point of emphasis tonight.
That was the main ingredient to beat Vasilevsky in round 1. And we've all been saying, like, they got to get more pucks to the net, more traffic to the net, Bob seeing everything. So, yeah, it was nice to see one of those go in tonight.
I think Frank brought up something really good in this morning on the radio. Is he talked about the neutral zone. Florida is doing a fantastic job of just they're basically isolating one guy. They're forcing either the Leafs to skate the puck in solo, having basically players stop at the blue line, or dump it. And like Frank, you talked about, they're not a dump and chase team.
No.
When they dump it, they don't get it back. And like you said, I didn't see anybody outside of Noel Acciari throw a hit from the forwards. So Florida's doing a fantastic job. They're really pressing at the blue line. I don't know how they're going to break that down. Like maybe they look at doing a little bit of a bump back, but you can't have 2 guys sitting at the blue line waiting for one guy in his own entry. They're isolating that one player. I don't know if they're going to go to maybe a soft chip, or they might have to go to some more strategic dumps instead of just dumping, but it's going to be something I'm interested to hear what the coach has to say about kind of how you would break that down.
I find it odd that the only 2 guys that actually have success getting into the zone are Nylander and David Kampf. I don't know what it is about. I can understand Nylander, but David Kampf, really? But they're not giving anything to Matthews, nothing to Marner, O'Reilly, Tavares. It's just what a great job, man. Like, I don't think Florida gets enough credit in this series, just how well they're playing. Talking about the refereeing, it's like, we were talking about the lack of calls, and then, some of the calls tonight were just, they were kind of back to
head scratchers.
Yeah, like the whole penalty was more of a, okay, because the stick exploded. I get it. The trip on Stahl.
I didn't like that one.
Yeah,
I didn't like that one.
Like I'm not complaining about the refereeing. It's just that it's like, here we're back to the inconsistencies. But then you see a lot of that stuff at the end of the game. Obviously the suspensions are probably not going to come of that, but there's some really heavy stuff going on there.
Yeah.
That, I guess Florida's trying to set the tone for next game, but I think there's some frustration there. Obviously, Florida, and
I would love to see those penalties carry over. Like I don't know why it's a playoff series. You're playing, and you see these a lot at the end of the games. These scrums, and these guys take liberties because they know nothing's gonna happen. Like Sam Bennett's punching a guy when he's on the. I think it was Camp was on the ice, and he's just punching him, and it's like. They take liberties because they know it's at the end of the game. But in terms of the officiating, I like them not calling the interference on the forecheck. And the Leafs forwards, again, did a really good job today of slowing up a lot of those forecheckers. And if they're not going to call it, keep doing it. I think as a defenseman, being a defenseman when I played, one of the hardest things was when your forwards didn't kind of slow up that forecheck. They've basically got rid of that in these new rules. I wish there was a rule where, you almost, if you can't prevent that interference, if you can't create that interference, they shouldn't be allowed to go in and have free reign to just have 60 feet of ice to skate in and just destroy defensemen. I think that was one of the arguments when it comes to that. They're not calling it this series. Continue to slow down that forecheck as long as they're not going to call it. That's the way I see it.
Use it to your advantage. Absolutely.
Keep going, right?
Yeah,
so.
I think one part of the game that at least we're really having a tough time on that forecheck was the outlet pass, retrieving it in their own zone, and adding Liljegren. I thought Liljegren was excellent tonight. Liljegren really helped in terms of the zone entry out, and actually made Jake McCabe a little bit better as he was there. They were a pair for the most part tonight, and just getting that puck out was I wouldn't say much easier, but they had an easier time with that Florida forecheck. So maybe they figured something out, perhaps. I would assume they're going to go with the same lineup next game. So if that's the case, now you've probably had that little crack in the door open on how to kind of get out of that, forecheck, because like guys like Justin Hall, Giordano to a certain extent, Brody, surprisingly, they were just throwing grenades. And some of the soft plays at the blue line, Florida was keeping in, and they're like, oh no, here we go again. Just it's funny. One more thing on the forechecker. I know it wasn't a penalty, but like that hit on David Camp from Gudis.
Oh man,
I have nothing wrong with the hit. To be quite honest with you, the hit was fine. Yeah, okay, you want to call after the whistle, but the fact that he got up, turned around, and was looking and just stood there. Is anybody going to take me on? Nobody did.
No, yeah.
I still find that as an issue.
But that's not the identity of this team. I mean, even Marner at the end is getting punched by Kachuk, and he's just got to kind of eat it, right? Like I agree. And Gudis knew what he was doing. He knew it was a penalty. He's he knew that should have been, that was probably a 2 minute. That should have been 2 minutes for something. Just the reputation of that guy.
Yeah.
Anybody else, you're like, all right. Like if it's Mark Stahl, you're like, all right. But it's Radko Gudis. Like he knew what he was doing. He's not that dumb. Like he knew what he was doing.
No, 100%.
And he took liberties. And like if Wayne Simmons is in the lineup, then Wayne Simmons deals with that. I think it's interesting that the one thing I've noticed is that Florida's kind of doing like a very passive forecheck. But once there's any little bit of issues with the Leaf defense, they're throwing two guys on the puck immediately. I don't know if you guys have noticed that at all, but they're kind of settling back. But any little issue, I mean, a little bobble, and they're sending two at the puck, which is the Leafs.
Very good observation, Bobby. I don't know what else you guys talked about the last 10 minutes, but that was a very good observation.
Nobody even knew you were gone. But the Leafs, they've just got to keep the game clean. If they can keep it clean, they're going to give this team a chance to win. Because they didn't turn the puck over nearly as much as they have in the last few games. Just keep moving the puck. If you're going to go east and west, one play and then that's it. North and get it out and use the glass if you have to. They played with urgency tonight, which was nice. It was like they realized it was a playoff game, like an elimination playoff game. So
well, I can tell you that there's another level here. Like they were good, but what we saw in the third period of game 2, that's the level they got to get to. Like I know it's easier said than done, but that's where they have to get. They've done it. They know it's possible, right? Now they're going to have a home crowd, which you hope is going to be electric, and not half.
They got to blow them out. They got to do it.
I was just going to get to that point. I said today when I was on with Mike Richards, I said, I'll gladly take a 1-0, 2-1 win, but I'm not satisfied. Like I was hoping the Leafs were going to blow them out tonight to kind of make a statement to really get them thinking. The one aspect of this win that I'm still a little pretentious about is that Bobrovsky's still Bobrovsky. He played outstanding again tonight. That game could have been, again, 4-1, 5-1. He made some 10 bell saves. He's still in the zone. That scares me. That really does scare me. Credit to Joseph Woll. That guy was cool tonight, man. Very calm, very good with his rebound control. He's a cool cat. That's from, obviously they were saying his pregame routine and stuff. That's great, but he's still a 23, 24-year-old rookie playing in his second playoff game, right? How much longer can they ride this? We hope they can ride it for a while. But again, Bobrovsky has been outstanding. So I'm hoping they shell him in Game 5.
Does he not look so much calmer in the net than Samsonov and Murray?
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
I think one of the things that helps is that, like Paul Maurice said, you either want really experienced or no experience, because sometimes, A, they don't know that they're in a moment, but B, there's no real tape on the guy. You don't have a weakness on him yet. Like sometimes you see guys get into the league and they have success because the league hasn't figured them out. What's Joseph Woll's weakness? We don't know. We haven't seen anything yet. So I'm sure Florida's saying the same thing. Just kind of put pucks in the net. Bobrovsky, the confidence is oozing. Like you can feel it. You can feel when a goalie's feeling it, and he is feeling it. You just need that. I liken it to a dam breaking. You need that dam to break, just so in the back of his mind he goes, well, maybe it's 2019 Bob, maybe it's 2019, 2020 Bob again, or back to those days when he struggled. You need that little bit of doubt. Right now he's playing with no doubt at all.
Yep.
Well, how many games has it been now that the Leafs have only scored 2 goals?
Isn't it ironic? They were
6 games.
They're scoring
6 games. Like they've got to put more than 2 past them in Game 5.
And
with
they're
the
scoring
crowd behind you. It's got to happen. You're seeing all these teams blow each other out in the playoffs. The Leafs did it to Tampa once. It's their turn to do it to the Panthers on Friday, and then push it back to Florida for Game 6. Because if that happens, yes, Florida will be at home, but start gripping the sticks a little tighter.
Mm-hmm.
The whispers start coming out about, blowing a 3-0 lead, and that's when it could happen. You know what I mean? I have no idea what's going on with my camera today. No clue.
Your internet is not as spotty, but it's ironic that they play Tampa. They score 3 goals like at will. It's like easy.
Yep.
And these games are like 2-1. Like I think they've scored 2 in all of them. No, 2 or 1.
So now this leads you to the question. They're going to be at home in Game 5. They have last change, so obviously that favors them a little bit in the matchups. Paul Maurice came out and said it doesn't matter who he puts on the ice because he thinks all those 3 lines have been fantastic. So what adjustments do they make now, knowing that they found a very small crack in the door, and what do they got to do to kind of just kick it wide open? Like what adjustments do they need to make?
In terms of a lineup or strategic?
Just in general.
I think lineup, I never thought we'd say this, but I like the 11 and 7. Like it gets their big guys out there more often and gives you the ability to get more combinations out there. You get to see Matthews and Nylander low. I'd like to see it a little bit more. And strategically, they got to just keep getting pucks to the net and get the pucks through to the net and get some deflections. Against Tampa, they had like 4 or 5 deflection goals. They don't have any of those yet.
Do you know who I think's been awful in the series? And I mean awful.
Tell me.
Michael Bunting.
Not good enough. Yeah,
you want to talk about, like, there was a play in the first period when he went after Ekblad and the free puck was there, and instead of going after the puck, he's worried about slashing Ekblad in the back of the legs. I don't think he understands what it means to be like a weasel. Like he's trying to play that like Brad Marchand like weasel role, but he doesn't. I don't think he knows what he's doing. He has been so ineffective that if you ask me, like right now, would you feel confident playing David Kampf or Michael Bunting? I'd be like, Kampf has looked excellent, and
he has been, man. Hey, give him credit. He's looked really good.
I thought he was one of the best players tonight on the ice, and Bunting is like, I don't even know if he played in the third. Like he's been so. I think he's got to kind of find a niche. The antics has got to stop now. Like you're up and you want to play those games, great, but now it's about getting the job done, getting pucks in the net. Like, he's not going to get calls anymore. Like, he was trying to sell a couple in the third. Just he's got to play better.
For me, I'd say I think Marner did a good job of it tonight, even though there was only two of them. The only way that they have to get Florida to take penalties. Florida is if not the second or the most penalized team in the league. And the only way that they're going to get Florida to take penalties is if they drive the net, is if they create havoc in front of Bobrovsky. And sure enough, that's how Marner drew one of those penalties. He didn't do it on the perimeter. He did it by going right to the net. And they got to get their nose dirty. They got to pay the price in order to get rewarded for it. So I would like to see them have 4 or 5 power plays next games, but obviously opens up.
Frankie, that ain't allowed for this team. That's not allowed. If they do get 4 or 5 power plays, then Florida gets 4 or 5. That's just the rules.
Okay, but that's what I'm getting at. They got to get to the power play more because I think they do have an effective power play against Florida.
I don't know if you guys talked about this. Like, the officiating sucked in that game. I may have missed it. Like, no. Honestly, like, it's a black and white rule. If you're high sticked and there's blood, it's 4 minutes. It's black and white. Like, it's pretty simple. Like puck over glass. Did it go over or did it not?
I guarantee you that if that was anybody else with a cut on his nose, that would have been 4 minutes.
Because
it was bunting, they probably thought it was a visor cut.
But Frankie, it's not. Let me check the name of the back of the jersey. It's not. Oh, there's just a little bit of blood. It's not enough blood to get 4 minutes. That's not what the rule says. Okay. The Gudis one. I think it's a clear charge. It's after the whistle, but the whistle happens right before he gets there. I'll listen to you say it's not a penalty, but I think that's a penalty. And then the too many men on the ice in the third period. It's like, oh, we don't want to call that because they're trying to get back in the game. As soon as the Leafs went up 2-0, I said, oh, Florida's getting a power play in the next 5 minutes. 100%. That's the way this league is run, man. It drives me nuts sometimes.
I was okay with the no. I was okay with the no too many men. Like, the refereeing, again, we talked about it. It was a little. It wasn't a factor, but
Bobby, ever since Paul Maurice cried about we're always at the wrong end of the penalty ledger, they've had more power plays than the other team. Like, kiss my ass. Shut up.
But the Leafs, again.
I want to smack his face right off.
But like, have the refs missed a lot? No. Like, I didn't like the Hall call in the first period.
Horrible.
And I didn't like the trip at the end. Like, I wasn't I would have let that go. But outside of the rest of it, it is what it is. I like, yeah, they manage games. We know that. Like, but it wasn't a factor tonight, I wouldn't say.
Thank God it wasn't. All right, boys. We get to do this show one more time, at least.
I hope we get to do it 3 more times.
That would be lovely. That would be.
Yes.
All right, everybody. You know what to do. Hit that like button, that subscribe button. Drop us a line or comment. Let us know what we should talk about next. And check us out after Game 5. Hopefully, we're in a really, really good mood. Take care, everyone. Good night. And let's go Leafs.